Dream, believe, build, and R2R. Hello, world. I'm Naj, and you are witnessing entrepreneurs in the making. Today, our guest is someone who has been there, done, and dusted, who has made his word out of nowhere, who has touched sky from somewhere coming from a humble background. He is a bestseller author, globally respected business coach, and a guy man of his own words. It's a story about resilience, dreams, and catching up with his own dreams. Not many people manage to live their dreams. You would have heard खुली आंखों से सपने देखने वाला हमेशा अपने सपने जीतता है. So we have a guy who I call him a power bank of positivity, energy, and happiness. Qaiser Abbas. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Sorry, excited to be here.
Thank you, Qaiser bhai. You took some time out for us. And I would like to tell my audience that this is not a typical setup we really record in. Since we are traveling and we thought, why not we meet you and record your story. I have read about you. You have great story. You are a symbol of resilience, positivity, happiness. What I have seen is spreading your positive energy all across. So we are going to be with you, and I would like to hear your story today. Are you ready for it?
Excellent. Super excited and super ready. Yeah.
Great. Kaise bhai, take us back when you were just a guy who was not known to the world, Kaise himself.
You want me to tell you who that Qaiser was?
Yeah.
The Qaiser was invisible. Qaiser was somebody who loved hiding. Was somebody who didn't have an ounce of confidence, didn't have the courage to actually introduce himself to one single person in the room saying, "Hello, this is Qaiser Abbas." Didn't have the courage to maintain the eye contact with anyone. Didn't have a sense of direction. That Qaiser didn't have the ability to be able to see even a week ahead. All that Qaiser would see around him was darkness. And that Qaiser did have a desire to change his life. But everyone around him, that was Qaiser's environment. So everyone around him tried persuading him, convincing him that nothing would be changed around you. Your life is going to be exactly the same. Nothing is going to work for you. For someone like you, this is the only life that you have. So that Qaiser was totally aimless, directionless, confidenceless, to some extent purposeless. And in those early days, my best teacher was survival. I was a student of survival.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, when did you find your purpose in your life? What was the movement you really thought that, okay, this is something I'm going to do? And you realize it's either make or break.
I think purpose is not something that you create, it is something that you discover. Okay. When I reached at the university, I was introducing myself to the field of organizational psychology, leadership, motivation. This is what we've been studying as part of my MSc in applied psychology. And I realized that there's a difference between being a purpose-oriented person and a goal-oriented person. So the goal is basically you're goal-oriented when you're trying to achieve something, you're there to get something. Something that you achieve is going to serve you, benefit you. But purpose is something that you focus only when you want to give. So the direction is not to be able to benefit, it is to be able to benefit others. So I realized that my entire life, since my childhood, was driven by this one powerful belief that I'm here to serve. So my initial ability and desire and motivation to be able to transform my own life was not that I wanted to be rich and I wanted to be experiencing great life. It was not me. It was a burning desire to be able to make a difference in the lives of the people around me. My parents, my mother, my father, my siblings. I wanted to create a different life for them. Because I was born in a family. You might have heard people living in Pakistan below the poverty line. a huge population. In the recent budget, they disclosed 45% people live below the poverty line in Pakistan. This is really painful. And this is shameful as well.
It is.
So it's 75 plus years in existence for this country and still 45% people living below the poverty line. No? So this podcast is for the entrepreneurs. Maybe I'm deliberately saying this. Maybe some entrepreneurs see this and they aim. Rather, they create a purpose in their life to be able to make a difference in the lives of those 45% people. Why am I passionate about those 45%? Because I've been one of them. You might have seen some people starting their journey from the first floor, some starting from the 10th floor, some maybe starting from the 60th floor. And I'm somebody who started maybe minus 60. I was underground. So the biggest challenge for me was, as I said, I was a student of survival. To be able to survive, no dreams, no ambitions, simple survival. So my family's biggest challenge was to how to secure the next meal. So a family where there are two parents and 8 siblings. I'm the youngest in the family.
Wow.
And as I said, the biggest challenge was to be able to make sure that we don't sleep without having the meal.
So you had this belief of giver's gain from very early age. This is what you found and you started working towards it. Is it so?
I think my parents role modeled it.
Oh, really?
Right? So from a position where we didn't have enough for ourselves and we were struggling and the money was a distant dream, resourcelessness, living in a rented house where the landlord comes every month to ridicule you, insult you, and you don't have the money to pay. From that kind of a position, you see your parents being so generous, hosting guests almost every single day. Our house was like a hostel. In some of our dearest cousins, girls and boys, they used to stay with us because despite having less resources, our house was kind of a symbol of excellence in education. So all our siblings were excelling in education. We were winning gold medals and we were topping the colleges and universities. So everyone was so inspired that they would send their children to our place without realizing that they don't have the money and the necessary resources to accommodate. But my father and mother, they had such a big heart. They would be so welcoming. And I noticed that many of my father's, not real sisters, but the ones that he gave the credit and the status of being sisters. So all those women whom we called pupos, and they were in large number, and my father would send them EDs and he would send them all the relevant stuff. And they would, but when my father passed, a lot of women showed up and he said, your father was my real brother. And I keep hearing these stories where even after my father passed, my eldest 2 brothers, they were taking care of those families. I was not earning in those days. And whenever there was a wedding taking place, that woman, despite having real brothers, would wait for my father's sons because my father was not alive. If they wouldn't show up, the marriage is not taking place.
Wow.
So my father would send them groceries, would send them atas and chawals and everything on a very regular basis. In a situation where we didn't have enough resources. And my father and mother, they would even borrow money from someone to be able to serve people. It was the highest. You see, it is not what you tell your children. This is what you show to your children. So we observed and witnessed that my parents were a symbol of generosity. They were givers.
Great.
This is what I learned from them, and this one realization actually transformed my whole life.
You talk about hunger, not ambition. So hunger in back doses, real hunger I'm talking about. What did teach you?
One word?
Yes, it's a
Everything. Hunger taught me everything. See, there's a difference between being hungry and being ambitious. Sometimes being ambitious means you'll achieve something at the cost of others. So you achieving something would mean that somebody is going to suffer because of you. But the real hunger is your ability not only to feed your own self, but to be able to feed someone else. So your real hunger in my case, my real hunger was not driven by my own desire or need to be able to go to a five-star restaurant and be able to eat. It was my desire to be able to share whatever I had. Right? And those days, that hunger uh, actually brought me to situations where I literally had two choices. One, I had only a small amount of money that could buy me some food, or I could buy some book. And I very proudly and with a lot of humility share with you that it's him who gives you the courage to be able to choose. I always went for the book. I went to the bed hungry, but very hungry for learning, very hungry for my own growth, very hungry for getting a book at a British consul, requesting them to give it to me for some time. I was not a member. So you really had to be good in terms of developing your communicating ability. So that hunger taught me how to survive. That hunger taught me to develop my communicating ability, to be able to persuade, to be able to negotiate, to be able to fight your way through conflicts, to be able to manage situations that required resources and money. And you didn't have any one of those. So that hunger taught me how to be resilient, how to bounce back, how to take rejections and still survive. And don't let your ego get hurt by all those rejections. So I would go to the British consul and request him, get the book of some top author and get it photocopied. Uh, and probably I was not paying to the photocopier. As that
In those days, it was not easy to borrow a book from the library.
it wasn't.
See, okay.
So to me, the biggest resource uh, was some books, some knowledge. So the books by Jim Rohn, the books by some organizational psychologists, by Dr. Marshall Goldsmith or Tony Robbins, those books were very expensive. No, those they look very expensive. So I used to go to Anarkali and you were lucky if you could find some. But then there was a Galaxy bookstore. They had those beautiful books, a Submarine and a Liberty. I would buy those books. I remember one day I had total of like 70, 80 rupees in my pocket, but there was a book and I was very hungry, literally hungry. And I could die. Like I had such strong feeling I must read something. And then I noticed there was a book with the name How to Get Richer Quicker. So I thought
So you literally put your hunger aside and fuel your real hunger to knowledge.
I negotiated. I still needed money to go back to the place where I lived. So I said 10 rupees. The book was like 150. I negotiated, bought it in 70 rupees. And the book talked about the millionaire's mindset. It didn't teach you how to run a business. So it taught you the fundamental things that how do you get richer quicker by adopting a mindset. So I, for the first time, understood that how the billionaires and the millionaires, they think. So one of the things I learned was that some of those billionaires, they tip to the waiters in advance. So I learned that habit. So whenever I used to take one of my clients to a restaurant, so I'll talk to the waiter and server, give them money upfront, and tell them he's my one of my best friends, and he's taken me for so many lunches and dinners. This is the first time I'm hosting him, and I want you to give him a fantastic experience. No, the waiters were hovering around you, and to my guests, it looked like as if this is my own restaurant. And that one habit, and many of the people probably have died out with me or I've taken them for lunch, they could vouch for it. Wherever I take them, they treat us like VVIPs.
Even today, you tip them, give them tips.
I like to do a lot of things.
Good. So, Qaiser, you have become a global coach now. I mean, you are globally renowned, very popular life coach or business coach. Uh, three core skills which has brought you here at this stature, at this status.
Yeah, it was multiple skills because I was totally skillless. I didn't have any skills. I been able to, alhamdulillah, learn, practice, and to somehow, to some extent, excel in those skills. First and foremost is the ability to communicate. I realized I didn't have a voice. Uh, Not because I didn't have anything to say, but I had this fear that people wouldn't listen. So in the class where I studied, I was the last one to speak in the class. I would only raise my hand if I would never, I don't recall raising a hand in the class or volunteering to speak. So I learned through Tony Robbins, one of his earliest books, The Unlimited Power. One of the topics was quality of your life is the quality of your communication. So I realized my quality of my life is pathetic. It was only because my communication skills, they were pathetic. So I couldn't talk. I didn't have the ability to listen the way I listen today. It means listening without judging and listening for what the person is saying, what the person is not saying, and even what the person can't even think of saying. Uh, Negotiating, selling. So these are the skills that I thought are fundamentals if I really want to be successful in life. So I started not only practicing English, but I started learning how to communicate. So I learned the psychology of communication. I took classes, I took courses, I read books, I went and bought those audio cassettes. Those were the days when you would buy those TDK or Sony's cassettes. Yeah. And interestingly, I didn't have anything to play it on.
No stereo player.
I had no
Wow.
tape recorder. I had nothing. So what I did is one of my friends, he in Farooqabad, where I actually belong to, he was my class fellow in college, and he joined a shop that would give away things on installments, electronic stuff on installments. So I went to him and I asked, how much does this Walkman cost? He says around 1500 rupees. And imagine I didn't have the money. So I persuaded him, can I buy it on installments? He says, it's a small item. We can't give it away on installments. So you have to pay it in full. So I persuaded him, used my communication skills, and I finally got it on installments. So I was like using that Walkman with a headphone, cassettes, and using those cassettes. I used to go to Naseem Abbas. It was Diabetic Institute of Pakistan where Dr. Dagat really owned it, and he was somebody who was bringing all this um, stuff from US. So I would just request, he wouldn't charge me any additional amount. So I would just give him my own cassettes and he would transfer the stuff
I record for you.
Yeah. And I was heavily investing in my own personal development. So first skill that I learned was communicating. Second was I learned that it doesn't matter how good you are in terms of whatever you do, you got to have the ability to sell. So I learned it through Brian Tracy. And he had a beautiful program, 6 cassettes called Psychology of Selling. So I learned the fundamentals of selling, how to deal with the rejections, how to deal with the objections, how to negotiate. Roger Dawson, I learned power negotiations. A beautiful audio cassette program that I read his book that I kept, studying more. So basically communication, selling, and then one day writing. Writing. I think writing is something that transformed my life. So I studied in schools where there were no rules, there were no wants. You could enter from any side and you could walk away anywhere from the school. I first started learning English in class 6, started with ABC. I won gold medals, but I did not have the ability to even comprehend a normal Newsweek or magazine like Times or Harvard Business Review, because the English that you are exposed to in your syllabus is very different from the one which is used in the daily life. So the first job that I took along with my studies in university was a job at a magazine. I was taken as a translator.
For you.
Yeah. I used to translate political and social articles into Urdu. So on day one, they gave me a bunch of articles to translate. And I comprehend nothing. I read all of it, but I understood nothing. So I request, can I have a dictionary? And they gave me a dictionary, and it took me like a whole life to be able to translate one article. And it was pathetically done, by the way. And then I had to redo it and redo it and redo it until it was presentable. Then I came up with an art. I said, instead of translating one line at a time, what I do is I try understanding the overall concept of it. So I would read a paragraph and try understanding the crux of it and then reproduce it in my own words. So that is actually the beginning of Qaiser as a writer. So I started enjoying flow. I became um, more powerful in terms of expressing my ideas. And that is a time when I discovered a writer in me. And the other challenging thing was to be able to write in English. So
So you on a very early stage, I could realize that you understood investing in yourself is the biggest investment.
I was like,
In even today's world, you see people like they don't really think inward; they're more outward. So when people were trying to build their resumes, and how did you manage to build your credibility in the market? I mean, you as a coach or you as a casser, how did it all happen?
I'm very lucky I've never had the need to build a resume. I was lucky to be able to build my profile. Instead of sending a resume, I would only send a one pager, which had my profile, Qaiser Abbas, da 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 da. And it changes with the rest of time. So there was a time I didn't have much to talk about me. And I used to write Qaiser Abbas, top public service commercial. Where he teaches at the Civil Services Academy. Some people, by the way, they thought I'm lying. And I would tell people I teach at the Civil Services Academy
But why would they think
because I was like 23, 24.
too young to understand? Yes.
And I didn't have the apparently all the gadgets with me, right? One of the things that I learned in those days to be able to look successful when the hunger taught me
Yes.
how to create an impression of success when you're actually not very successful without using a lie, without being deceptive, without exaggerating and trying to pretend what you're not. It was very difficult. But even the credential that I was able to earn, like teaching at a Civil Services Academy, would you believe at the age of 24, I was teaching at NEPA, National Institute of Public Administration, high profile, covered up. I taught at uh, the top institutions at Pakistan Army. I was invited to teach psychology of peak performance. In those days, like in 2003, I was paid 20,000 rupees a day. It was not even for a day, it was like for 2 hour talk. Comparing to NEPA, they would give you 1,000 rupees for 1 hour. And suddenly a jump from 1 to 2,000 to 20,000 for delivering talks at the highest places. So I was at one interview, it was not an interview, I was actually trying to sell one of the training programs to a client. And he says, your profile says you taught at Civil Services Academy. I said, yes. So who is the director? I told the name. He says, where this academy is. Then he asked me a number of other questions. And I felt humiliated. And then the meeting finished. Obviously, he didn't give me the job. And he says, I aapko niche chhod ke aata hu. So, like, I was experiencing this kind of humiliation every day, where people were judging you on the basis of the card that you have and the watch that you wear and the phone that you carry or the bag that you are putting on the table. So he made sure I tried asking him, "ठीक है sir, idhar tak ही सुनिए." He says, where's your car? In the parking. And there was no car. And he looked at me. And I still remember that glance. It had a lot of hatred or a lot of insult. He didn't say much, but he tried showing me that तुम्हारी ऐसा लोग आता है. You were just trying to
Tone of communication. Yeah.
So I was experiencing it every day. Like the first I went to the Civil Services Academy, delivered a fantastic talk, and the DG saw it happening. He loved it. He invited me for lunch after my talk. And I was like, people generally used to invite you for chai coffee, like you did today. But what I ordered was कि यार खाने खिला दो कोई. तो उन्होंने कहा कि let's have lunch together. So we sat for the lunch. Once we finished, he says, I आपको गाड़ी दे सो. तो मैंने फिर उनसे कहा सही है इधर तक ही सही. Then he says, कोई कैसे साहब के ड्राइवर से कहो कि गाड़ी इधर ही है. सिविल सर्विस अकेडमी में पार्किंग काफ़ी दूर है फ्रॉम द मेन बिल्डिंग. तो मैंने दिल में सोचा 27 नंबर वैगन का ड्राइवर को गाड़ी लेके फिर भी would have been the 27 number. I used to go there, to go there. So those were the days. They were difficult to build credibility, but I learned a lot of you to build the credibility. You have to do a couple of things. One, you have to be deeper. So even today, when I explain to my clients, to my coaching clients, for instance, because so many coaches globally, and the only way you differentiate yourself is your process. So when I start describing my process, there are clients who have already gone through it. But the ones who have never experienced anything with me, then I only share a brief overview of the process that I take the client through. They're sold immediately because it is so deep. And many a times clients say, look at me and say, oh, you do such hard work. And I've seen, like, I've taught my craft to over around 350 people. I personally trained them. They know everything that I do. All the materials, all the frameworks, all the templates. I've given them everything. So even some of my CGS students, they would come back to me and saying, we never have this kind of an idea that you work so hard. So one of the things to be able to build credibility was to be able to go deeper and work harder. Second, I am very careful in terms of giving ROI to my clients. So I'm not a motivational speaker. So my job is to be able to take an organization from here to the next level. So I produce measurable careers in leadership behavior. To me, the coaching is not fluff. Coaching is not a softy, touchy thing. It's a real thing that creates an impact on business. So you do deeper, hard work, you produce ROI, and you give more than you are paid for.
When did you realize that you can actually change someone's life? You can be a coach or someone who can guide people to change their mindset or reset.
Yeah.
And I like to add some more things. And I would like to know your desire in those days. What was Cass's desire and what was his hunger? Most of the time, people don't understand the difference between desire and hunger.
Yeah. Hunger and desire, two very impressive words. Desire is I want something, but I'm not hungry for it. So when you're hungry for it, and this is what I learned from Les Brown, may God bless him. This guy, Les Brown, wrote a beautiful book. Says it's not over until you win. It's a beautiful book. So when you convert your desire into a hunger, it becomes totally indispensable. You don't have an option. Like hunger is being in a state where you don't have a plan B. So the only choice that you have is to be able to make the plan A work. So to me, there was no plan. I knew there's nobody coming to rescue. Nobody's going to come and change me. I've been on the wait for the past 22 years. Nobody came. So I realized that the only person that I can rely on to be able to transform my life is Mr. Qaiser Abbas. And if Qaiser didn't do anything, my life is going to go waste. So the moment I developed this realization, I was on a very different route. And I've been restless. I slept like only 2-3 hours.
Thinking, dreaming.
I started realizing people talk about the books that I have not read. They talk about the movies that I have not seen. They talk about the ideas that I'm totally unfamiliar with. And people are exposed to the things that I have not been exposed to. You could talk about the countries I've not visited. They talk about the people that I've never met. So I wasted my life. At the age of 21, 22, I started realizing my life has gone waste. So I realized, no, I don't have any time to waste. Allah has been so kind with me that I still live this mantra. So the last thing that I do every day before I go to the bed is, guess what? I learn something. I've never ever gone to bed in my life without reading or learning something. So the last thing that I do is, when I'm tired of reading, so I put on my AirPods or the headphones, whatever is available. And sometimes headphones are not very comfortable. And many of the people who are watching this podcast may disagree with me. But I've missed so much in life, and there's so little time available, that all the podcasts and all the training program that I bought, invested a lot of money in, I've not gotten the time to actually go through all of them. So when do I get the time? So what I do is I put on my headphones or AirPods before I go to sleep, and I listen as much as I can, and then fall and I go to sleep. And this is one of the conflicts between my wife and I. He says, लगा दी आपने हमने headphone, बंदा कोई बात कर लेता है. तो बस I thought you're gonna go to sleep.
Yeah, sometimes it's a kind of disconnect when you put on the headphones. You actually are disconnecting yourself with people around you.
It is done when my wife has gone to sleep apparently. The lights are off. तो फिर मैं कहता हूँ अब तो सोना है, तो किसी भी लम्हे नींद आ जाएगी ना. तो उससे पहले के जो चंद मिनट हैं, I didn't want to waste those moments. And the first thing that I do when I wake up every morning, it's a habit. This is how you cultivate habits, is reading. Good. So I have a habit, before you pick up your phone, I have to pick up a book every single night without fail. And I've placed books everywhere in my house.
Do you prefer reading an actual book or ebook? Or
I prefer to read physical books.
Why do you prefer?
Because this is
You remember, Kaisa, we used to read Kitab Aapka Behtareen Saathi Hai, right?
yeah.
So you still believe that?
Let me explain. When I'm in my house or in my office, I have placed books everywhere. So I don't have to go and pick up a book. If I'm sitting on my lounge, I'll have my books. When I'm in my laziest position watching TV and almost live on the sofa, I still have access to the books. पहले से place करके रखी.
Wow.
Even if I go to the washroom, there are books placed everywhere. So when you're building habits, you got to make it easy to execute your habit. Is what I've learned from the best of the best in the world. And then I have over 700 books in my phone.
Wow.
So when I'm traveling, there was a time I used to carry a lot of books with me. And now over the years, I've realized that I don't have to carry all of them with me all the time. So I prefer to buy new ones from the airport or utilize. For instance, all the books that I have here, I've got them in my phone.
Do you read your own books?
Of course.
How often?
One of my friends, Umar Ghani, he caught me red-handed reading my own book on a plane. So I was going to conduct a training program, I think, for PNG. I was reading my own book. It was with the title Power of Teams. So I thought I need to revisit my own team building model. And he says, what are you reading? I said, I'm reading this book. And he says, who's the author? So I'm the author.
So Qaiser has written books, multiple books, and a few of them he's been kindly brought in today for us. Tick Tick Dollar, he's written one of, actually I'm gonna read, and then he's written Speed Coaching.
This is the latest one.
This is the latest one.
Yeah.
And then Qaiser has written another Meeting Crisis. I think this is going to be my favorite book, most favorite book. And yeah, thank you very much. These all books are available online and even in person. If you guys like to find out more details, you can drop us a message or something.
This used to be a dream.
Okay.
Yeah. Writing a book was a dream. Signing a book was a dream. You know, every day, almost after every my training session, there are people who bought my books already, or they would like me to come and sign. Mostly organizations, wherever I go, organizations buy my books in large quantity. So every participant is given a book by the management. So at the end of the program, everybody comes around me, signing those books. And this is the scene I used to visualize.
So this is so inspiring. You used to dream all this.
Yes. So, for instance, the book Forward is written by Dr. Marshall Goldsmith. Marshall is my teacher. I learned coaching from him. He's world's number one executive coach. And I had agreed to have a forward by Dr. Marshall on my book. Dr. Marshall is 75. He's written forward in his entire lifetime, maybe 6-7 books. And you may not believe, out of those 6-7 books, 2 are mine.
Wow.
So for these 2 books, Dr. Marshall did the forward. In all, the top authorities that I once only got familiar with through internet or through their audiobooks and other books, most of them, they had endorsed my books. And you might notice this book is not published, or none of these books have been published in Pakistan. These are published in America by Hay House. So this used to be a very clearly spelled out dream. Now, here is the moment for you and I to be able to talk to the people who are watching us. So this did not happen because it was part of my goals. It happened, and I repeat, it happened only because it was part of my purpose. The goal is getting, purpose is giving. So the entire money, 100% of the money that I receive from these books, it goes to support the education of underprivileged children across Pakistan.
Purpose is bigger than life.
All these books are very expensive, like $26 each. And I've written 10 of them. And I get a lot of money from these books. But 100% of this proceed, it goes to support.
So no one had to actually convince you to write a book. It's just that you already had in mind you're going to share your experience through the book, and they can live forever even once you are not here.
Yeah, I think I've been very, very lucky. Because at the age, some of my teachers, they come to me sometimes, even during those days. That in those days when people are just struggling to even decide what do they really want to do in their life, I was already an author. And I learned and I was exposed to some of the finest authors, coaches, trainers in the world in the earliest time of my life. And somehow I developed this realization that all these top trainers and coaches and consultants and gurus, they have one thing in common. They all have a best-selling book. And I wrote this ticket dollar in 2002. Can you imagine? 2004?
23 years back.
And right after writing this book, I got a call from Askari Commercial Bank. And they invited me to deliver a training program. And that was the first ever training program for me to the corporate world. And you can't imagine my level of self-confidence. I thought instead of just showing up in the program, I should go and run some pre-training assessment. I had read in the books in training that there's a pre-training assessment. And I read a book called Secrets of World's Best Speakers and Trainers. So since though I hadn't done it, but I knew how to do it. What I decided was that I need to go to a Askari Bank and experience their service. So what I did is I mustered the courage and I went there and I was able to meet the branch manager. Now when I met the branch manager, I forgot the script. I didn't have the confidence to talk to him. So I looked like a spy who could not persuade or could not convince the people around why I was there. Was I a customer, a potential client, or I couldn't even tell I'm going to be a trader 2 days from now and I'm here to gather some information. I just froze. And then eventually I was in Islamabad for the session. And guess what? The day I had the session, I reached there a night earlier. And I can't go into the details how terrible that night was. And only I could see myself failing, etc., all the negative emotions and all the negative pictures. And when I went to the breakfast table, and the first person I met at the breakfast was the same guy And he says, I think I've seen you somewhere. And I didn't know what to say. And I just avoided the question. I didn't have the courage to say, yes, it was me. See, sometimes, uh, despite having the skills and the confidence, you just go blank. And that was one lowest moment of my life. Nobody, as a trainer, would like to, or as a coach, would like to have that experience just 50 minutes before the session. So, despite those negative experiences and emotions, I was able to most the career and motivate myself and use all the tools that I use to teach others, neuro-linguistic programming and psychopedagogy and neuroscience. I used all of it. Only I was able to stand in front of them, deliver fantastic training, and everybody gathered around me and they had the books. They picked up, I was signing them. I didn't have any other assignment the next day, but I rushed to the airport, pretending I'm very busy. And that was exactly how it went. I was writing my dreams on my diary, on my journey, and doing years back. So dreams do become true. Um,
What most of the people do, what do they misunderstand about coaching, especially in this part of the world? I'm sure there are challenges here.
Coaching is largely misunderstood. One of the things which is basically understood is coaching is for somebody who is underperformer. Coaching is somebody who needs to be fixed. Coaching is for a person who is not delivering. Coaching is for someone who has problems. So that's not the case. Coaching is for the superstars. Coaching is for somebody who's already gotten the highest potential. So the purpose of the coaching is not to be able to fix someone's behavior, but to be able to help them unleash their full potentials. Coaching is somebody who's already a champion. Somebody who's already won the gold. But in order for them to continue uh, achieving those gold medals, they need a coach. So look at all the top superstars. Any sport, the number ones in tennis, the number one in golf, the number one in football. Everybody has a coach. So that exact thing is in the business as well. All the top Fortune 500 companies, global CEOs, you don't find a single chief executive who does not have a coach. But in country like Pakistan, here if you are getting coached, it is generally seen as a sign of weakness. अच्छा इसकी coaching हो रही है इसमें जरूर कोई problem होगा. If I'm coaching a CEO, so it means the board is not very happy with them. Or he's not able to manage his team. Or he might not be or she might not be able to deliver results. So that's why they get in a coach. I think very successfully we've been able to transform the mindsets of people, especially executives. Recently, I spoke to the CFO conference where I was teaching around 500 CFOs how to transition from being a CFO to the CEO. The one top chief executive, he comes to me after my talk. He says, Qaiser, I'm not a CFO anymore. I'm already a chief executive. But I have just one question. When can you start coaching? And he said it publicly. That was a moment that I still cherish. So chief executives in Pakistan these days, they're very open. Most of them, they're initiating on their own. It's not board connecting with me and asking me to coach the chief executive, but it's not the HR department. Though in many cases, it's either the board or the HR who is initiating and eventually looping in the chief executive. But in many cases, chief executives are coming as well. Very quickly, the second biggest assumption, which is wrong about coaching is telling. Coaching is advising. So they confuse coaching, consulting, mentoring, therapy, counseling. People are not able to differentiate in any one of these. So this confusion exists, unfortunately. It exists on both sides of the table. So many coaches, they have somehow misunderstood coaching. They might not have gone through proper training. So their own concepts about coaching are not right.
What is your offering today to the market? Like, what do you coach right now as CEO? What's your focus? Or do you go with their personal objectives, organizational objectives? How do you decide?
Yeah.
Is there a pre-qualification before you take on this job?
Is a coachability test.
Okay.
So if somebody is not coachable, I don't take the assignment.
Okay.
This is one of the building credibility. Right. So I clearly tell them, I only accept a candidate if the candidate is able to express. There are 3 signs. If the person is exhibiting those signs, only then I will be coachable. So I take coachability tests without letting them know that I'm going to take a test of you. I could float some assessment, informal assessment, or I could ask 1 or 2 questions and be able to, or maybe max 3 questions, and be able to understand whether the person has the humility or the courage and the discipline. These are the 3 things that I see. That a person does not have the humility, can't learn from anyone, or the person does not have the courage to be able to see the things that he or she not been able to see in the past, or the feedbacks specifically would be devastating for some chief executives when they get to understand that this is what the feedback is from the board, from the colleagues, from the peers, from the team, and also being able to exhibit the discipline to produce those positive changes measurably. It's a difficult thing.
So what's the probability after the test you will take up the job? I mean, 7 out of 10, 9 out of 10. I mean, when you do go through the test, pre-qualification test. So what's the possibility you will take up the job or you will take up the
So apart from people not being able to pay my fee, the biggest reason for me not taking the assignments is their inability to show up as a coachee. So as I said, if they don't demonstrate courage, humility, and discipline, I don't accept.
if they're not willing to learn themselves, what's the point to have them force?
So I am just going to waste their money, and I'm going to lose my credibility.
So what's the cultural resistance? I mean, usually you face when you go, and I'm sure that people do come to you. You don't really need to go now since there are now many coaches in this market, and you are anyway stand.
Oh, there are very highly qualified, good coaches out there in the market. My positioning is different. Right now, 100% of my clients are chief executives. So again, this used to be a dream. So there was a time I couldn't even think of interacting with a chief executive because I had this fear I don't belong to this room. Now I wouldn't be able to carry a conversation. I wouldn't be able to add value. I had a fear I might be exposed. And many chief executives, they actually share some of these emotions of Kessner. What if they find out? What if I'm not able to deliver? What if they chose the wrong person? I'm really sure I will be able to do the job. So in many of these conversations with the chief executives, I find out that they have the same challenges that I used to go through, and I still go through these challenges. It's not over as long as we are growing and you're aiming to achieve bigger objective and bigger ambitions, and your hunger drives you to achieve more and do more and contribute more. You continue to have these self-doubts. But there is a time when you convert these self-doubts into self-discipline. That's a turning point.
And that becomes an opportunity.
Becomes a big opportunity.
Great. So cultural, it's not cultural resistance, it's most of the time individual resistance.
I'm sending cultures in organizations. See, I do 2 things. I do coaching and I do leadership interventions also. The difference is coaching is on a one-to-one basis. It's only the chief executive enough. The leadership interventions, they could be for the entire leadership team, or it could be for the other levels also. So my novel process is like I have over 550 clients in 40 countries now. Not everyone is active. Some of them are active at different timings, and then I have a team. I have like over 350 people just like me in my organization. So if somebody does not have the right budget for me, I have other high profile executives turned into coaches. So they're not junior colleagues. In terms of their age and experience and exposure and education, they'll be literally ahead of me. But these are the executives who are CFOs and CHROs and chief marketing officers or chief of supply chains, and they wanted to transition and they wanted to leave this 9 to 5 thing and wanted to build a second career. So they came to me and I trained them for at least 6 months to 1 year to be able to earn their coaching certification. So I have that team as well available too. So when you run these leadership interventions, Naseem, what you notice is that there are like one or two very clear signs. One, I see bad leadership and I see it at multiple levels. So leaders who are controlling, leaders who exploit, leaders who insult and use power as a tool to manipulate. And I see, because I'm a psychologist as well, and I interview people, and I and my team and I, we have the ability and the skills to be able to connect with people and be able to dig out the truth and be able to see the real culture of the organization. And I understand when we go to an organization, recently we went like around 37 people for my company. They were doing cultural assessment of a company at their multiple locations, at their centers and their plants and their sales offices, excuse me, and other wherever the people were. And some of those leaders, they threatened their people don't tell the truth.
Really?
Yep. And some of them they create an environment where the truth can't be seen. So in a day's time, we interacted with 188 people,
A break in the shell.
and we were able to penetrate because no, it is our daily thing. We don't want to get to the truth. So bad leadership is the number one thing.
Okay.
And these leaders are toxic. Why? Because they've not been exposed to any other leadership style in their entire life. They saw the leaders, not leaders, sorry, I use the wrong word. They saw their bosses, their managers using these tactics on them, and they saw they've been rude. They've not been exposed to anything else. So bad leadership, there are number of, I wouldn't say bad leaders, I'll say bad leadership style. Toxic leadership style is the number one reason.
How do you call them? Control freak, or the people like they are insecure about their jobs? I mean, at some point, managers or top bosses become insecure. Someone might take over, and they're not ready yet.
Multiple reasons. One of them will be insecure.
Okay.
Other would be, and I've seen organizations where we try building help, or we're not someone who would build a system, we can only propose. So if my company, for example, makes fonts, so there's no system which tells I'm the head of production, and there's no system telling the other colleagues that how many they need today. So you have to call me and check.
There is no system.
So I'm the system. I think he said it. I didn't want to say this, but I said it. You wait and see. The most of the managers in organizations, they resist creating systems. Why? Because systems will expose them, systems will bring transparency, and systems will weaken their walled cities. Their forts will be broken. Dependency will be finished. So now you asked me, you write me an email, I had the power, I wouldn't reply to your email. I wouldn't answer your call. You call my colleagues, juniors to me, I will stop them.
Don't tell.
I will ask them not to communicate with the CEO. So I have built my own empire. I've been undefeated for 15, 20 years. I've invested everything into building this empire. I've not created any successes of mine. I've not trained anyone. So when my retirement time will come, the company will be forced. They will feel obliged not to retire me. They will give me an extension for 2 years, then another 2 years, and I'll be indispensable for the organization. And because I had no faith in the creator, and I did not have, and I'm saying this so sadly, leadership is two things. One, you love for the game, whatever your game is, writing or playing soccer or cricket or IT or producing milk or whatever the business is. Some leaders are very passionate about what they do, but this is only one side of the coin. The other side is, do they have the passion to grow people? And this is a litmus test where most of the leaders fail. Most of the leaders.
What holds them back to?
Infidels,
So that's one underlying message there.
they don't want to weaken their power, and they don't want to train people because they will get the limelight.
For such people in such organizations, how do you define success then?
Mm.
So what is their success?
They're
What is their legacy?
still very successful by the
Commercially, we are talking
Yes.
about?
Yeah.
So on organizational level, them being commercially successful, not leaving the legacy of self-sustainable is called success.
This is what their definition of success is. And despite these behaviors, they are very successful. So they think they're successful because of these behaviors. Okay. Is that different?
They have a logic.
They think they are successful because of these behaviors. Whereas the fact is, this is what my teacher, Dr. Marshall Goldsmith, taught me. They think they are successful because of these behaviors. Whereas the fact is, they are successful in spite of these behaviors. And this is where the role of the coaching comes in. So you identify those behaviors and you help those very successful people transform those behaviors. And this is, by the way, the same what we take a lot of an honest ride in doing it every day. We go to an organization where people are resistant. Three things: one, bad leadership; two, lack of systems; and three, no desire for learning. They think we know it all. If you recommend a training program, again they think this is sign of weakness. So I don't need anything. Someone say, "कैसे रहो बेजो हम उसको सिखाते." Right? And then you somehow penetrate into their minds and you sow the seed of learning and growing, and you create a new love in their hearts for developing their people. And surely within a couple of weeks, you begin to see change. And you see people taking care of their people. You see systems being developed. You see people letting go of their ego, letting go of the control, starting to open up for a better model for leadership. And you leave a totally different environment in the organization.
I mean, I don't know. I would like to add something here. It could be experience and visual experience. Like sometimes it could be because of their cultural thing. It could be sometimes because of their self insecurity, incompetence. So in your cases here in this market, is it because they are not aware of their own potential and they don't like to take challenge? As soon as you handhold them, how long do you take them and make them realize that guys, you can leave them? It's still a success. Lifting others around you is a bigger success than just leaving numbers on the books. So how long it takes you? Do you come nurture them every 3 months, or what is the typical length of course?
The change takes time. Even if you begin to exhibit some signs of change, so if you remove the rewards or the accountabilities, they will go back to the box that they belong to. Correct. So there's a science behind change. So my typical coaching and leadership interventions, they last at least for a year. So there was a time when I used to get invited for a 2-day retreat, like go and deliver it and come back. And organizations have limited budgets for those retreats. If you ask them to allow us to be able to do some assessment, they would say we don't have the budget. And if you remove the budget, they'll say we don't have the time because everyone is busy. If you remove the time constraint, then they are resistant because they think everything that we are doing is very confidential. We wouldn't like Qaiser to get access to what the internal problems are.
Very bureaucratic. Yeah.
So without giving an access to the on-ground realities, they would like us to create a strategy for them. It doesn't work. Yeah, it creates temporary enthusiasm in the organization, and people, despite hating each other, they hold each other's hands and they smile and they go through these team building activities, and they think, wow, it was a great event. But they go home, back to the workplace, and everybody behaving exactly the same. So with the passage of time, I'm lucky to be able to develop this courage without having this fear of losing the assignment. So I started having the courage to be able to tell the truth. So for instance, I went to, and all my clients are, mashallah, generous. They give me a lot of regard, they give me a lot of respect, they give me one premium fee. This is what I dreamt many years back. So I'll have a lot of freedom to be able to do whatever I want to do. If I create a program, nobody questioning me and asking me. In earliest day, people will say, what will you teach? Give us
Outline.
an outline and show us the activities that you will be doing. Those days are over.
We will approve.
Yeah, in 2014, I was doing a program for a top MNC, and the president comes to me 8:45 in the morning. We were supposed to start at 9. He says, Qaiser, मुझे तो बता दे यार आपके program का title क्या है. So you earn this credibility and respect that you don't even reveal to them the title of the program. Because the client trusts you, whatever you want to do today, it will be exactly what we require. So there were earliest times when I'll ask people that I'll come for the pre-assessment. I have like processes. There's a pre-intervention assessment, focus groups, one-on-one interactions, assessments, surveys, meetings, a lot of stuff, observations. For instance, we'll go to one of your milk collection centers you wouldn't even know. We'll go to one of your factories or we'll go to one of your outlets and experience as customers. We go deeper and deeper and deeper. And then we gather a lot of data. And clients are not willing to pay for it because they only have the budget for 2-week training. And then after having this assessment, the second stage is where we sit together along with my team members and we design something. And this design takes a lot of time. We can't do what we did for client A because every client is different. So when you do this designing thing, it requires a number of days of work. And the clients did not budget this. So they want to skip it. They want to come directly to the third thing, which is delivery of the program. So now, at least 9 out of 10 clients that we currently work with, the existing clients, 10 out of 10. They will budget for the pre-assessment and designing. They will give us time, they will give us access, they will give us resources, and they will give us a lot of respect also for doing all of it.
They'll help you to identify the problem, tailor-made program.
And then we deliver the intervention. Could be 2 days, could be 30 minutes, could be 1 hour, could be 3 days, could be 6 days. And once the intervention is done, then there is a pre-decided date about the follow-through of the program.
Okay.
Which could be 3 months from now. And this is the last stage, for instance, stage number 5. But in between stage 5 and 3, there is stage number 4, where we will ensure workplace application of whatever leaders have learned. So those 25 leaders, they learned a lot of stuff and they made a plan to go and execute some of those lessons back at a workplace. And that is the time where we allocate a coach to each one of them.
Oh.
So every single leader takes responsibility to do certain things in the next 3 months under the supervision of a coach. Somebody who brings a neutral pair of eyes, does not have any history with the organization, somebody that the executive and the leader can trust, and also share some of his constraints coming from the top leadership, coming from the team. And when we get to the stage 5, we are not uncertain, we are absolutely confident. We make sure whatever executives learned here is being implemented.
It becomes a part of their habits.
So once we deliver these 5 stages, and it always produces result. Because when you follow the process, it always produces result.
You believe the process.
And then when they see the benefit of it, then they say, why can't we go at level below? And we take another 25, and then we take another 25, and another 25, another 25. And there are organizations where we cover like 400 people, starting from the CEO. I coach the chief executive, my team coaches the CXOs, then we deliver leadership interventions. Then we go a level below, we conduct trainer for their internal trainers, or my team does the rest of the work. But then there are organizations who would like to take me for the lowest level as well.
Okay.
For the impact. knowing that that is very expensive for the lowest level. No, their organization, not one, two. They're in the dozens in number, where I've had the privilege, and I use the word privilege, to be able to coach these chief executive. And I might have worked with the people who work at the floor, who are like not even qualified for the metric poly degree, and they're not educated. But I, because of my story, because I did a lot of work in those textile mills and I worked in those odd jobs. So that story, there probably would not be any other trader who could be comfortable talking to the chief executives and be able to develop a connection with the floor level people. But
That resonate. Yes.
this is how Allah takes you through
Yes.
a very different journey. Correct. So I am somebody who's seen by the clients a very effective speaker, coach, trainer at all levels.
And by the way, guys, I was expecting to learn a lot of stories from you today because you are a guy who has lived life ups and downs. And what part of your mindset still challenges you within yourself?